first ones in the history of Russian-American relations and nearly led the two nations to nuclear war.
A Zvezda newspaper quoted a high-placed source saying while the Americans deploy anti-missile systems in Poland and the Czech Republic, our long-range strategic aircraft will be landing on Cuba.
Просто нет никакой военной необходимости, there's no strategic reason to land our bombs there. Our aircraft have great capabilities and some can fly for over 13,000 kilometers without refueling.
Washington warned Russia would be crossing a red line if it were to base nuclear-capable bombers in Cuba. The White House itself refrained from commenting because there has been no official response from the Russian government. The U.S. has tried to reassure Russia their missile plans aren't aimed at them. And Russia has repeatedly asked, then why so close?
We know they want to deploy on our borders, only a few dozen kilometers away. How will that protect the U.S. from Iran is difficult to say. If they really wanted protection from Iran, they would deploy close to their borders.
Russia is waiting for the U.S. to clarify its position on the issue of missile defense. The foreign minister says Moscow has still not received concrete and clear-cut proposals. If the U.S. goes ahead with its plans and Russia responds by returning to Cuba, positions which strikingly resemble the 1962 missile crisis that brought Washington and Moscow to the brink of war, a situation both sides have sought to prevent over the last 4 decades.
As we speak, of course, Senator, there is a Russian warship docked about 200 miles from Miami, Florida, at a port in Havana, the capital of Russia's old communist comrade, Cuba. Reportedly, the ship is armed with giant 30mm guns and anti-aircraft missiles. AFP first reported its presence, but there's been no official explanation for what this Russian ship is doing there. And of course, in southern Ukraine today, dozens of armed men stormed regional government buildings, including the parliament there, and raised Russian flags. Ethnic Russians, in a rejection of the power claimed by Ukraine's interim government, are clashing with Ukrainians in the streets there. What do you think Putin is up to?
I think he's up to trying to preserve his absolute commitment and ambition of maintaining Ukraine as the part of the Russian Empire. We don't seem to understand that Putin is a KGB colonel apparatchik who believes in the Russian Empire. That's why he invaded Georgia. That's why he put pressures on Moldova, the Baltic countries, and the crown jewel of that is Ukraine. I have said all along, I don't believe he's going quietly. And I don't believe he's going to invade. By the way, the warship in Cuba, just a little saber rattle. What's really concerning now is particularly Crimea, but also eastern Ukraine, and Crimea is the naval base of Sevastopol, which he does not want to lose. And I believe that's what is happening now is they're creating unrest. He's not going to send troops in a la Hungary. His people and special forces are in there fomenting unrest, and I think he will take further steps in order to achieve a goal of at least maintaining control of parts of eastern Ukraine and especially Crimea. And I believe that he's intent on it, and we need to have a very strong statement about the unacceptability of such actions.
Okay.
To tam na Krymie tysiące tych helikopterów wyrzucałem. Ale ile ich jest, zobacz. Całe, dosłownie te lecą, jest takie bataliony helikopterów. Ile kolejny zespół helikopterów też. Patrz, następny.
Еще один, смотри. Сейчас я очкую.
Blać, a to było już.
A ciągle nowe takiego wtedy na ten Krym nas dyslokują.
Tak.
Całe chmary tylko.
Gdzie Rzym, a gdzie Krym? Właśnie.
Patrzcie tam. Rosyjskie jest trochę takie. Nad Sebastopolem.
No i ta muzyka, ładna muzyka.
Najprawdziwsi żołnierze. Siedzą
Tak.
teraz siebie. Najtwardsi. Bo ciągle wojny prowadzili bez przerwy.
A no właśnie, i ciągle
I naokoło.
musieli w głodzie wytrzymać.
Tak. I najbardziej wytrzymali.
Niemcy nie wytrzymają.
A on wytrzymał.
Chief National Security Correspondent Jim Kiddo joins us with more on this. Jim, what happened there?
So two Russian bombers, two Block 95s. When you look at the picture of them, it's Cold War era plane. You know, it's turboprop actually. First started flying in the 50s. Anyway, flew north over Scotland, got close. The British scrambled jets, and then in succession, the Dutch and the Danish as well to escort them out of European airspace. And at the same time, there's also a Russian ship that approached British waters, and a British Navy destroyer escorted that out of the way. And what the British are saying, you'll talk to them, this has happened before, no question, but in light of what's going on in Ukraine, they're much more attuned to Russian military activity.
Sure, the context is disconcerting. But when you say it's happened before, how often does it happen?
The truth is it happens all the time. It happens about half a dozen times a year. The British, I think last year was 8 or 9 times. The Dutch have had it happen 6 times or so. And oftentimes they'll even break into European airspace. For instance, today they got about a half mile into Dutch airspace. And it happens in the U.S. as well. Off the coast of Alaska, you will have Russian fighters and bombers come in, kind of buzz the airspace, and then, as it's protocol, the American jets scramble, they go up and kind of politely escort them on their way. So, and why do they do it? I mean, partly it's to test the air defenses and to see how sharp, in effect, the Europeans and the Americans are. It's also a little bit of a reminder. It's a game of cat and mouse. It's like, we're here, you know we're here, and then, of course, the Americans, we know you're there. But now, I mean, the key now is, do they see a step up to this kind of activity? So far, this is routine, but they're going to be watching to see when it becomes no longer routine.
Well, we know they're there.
Yeah, and then they don't need a reminder.
Well, they're there. Thank you so much.
Supporters arrested on Friday when more than 40 people were killed. Ukraine's Prime Minister, who was visiting the city today, told Sky News his country was facing a well-planned and well-plotted Russian operation. The Sky's Katie Salad is live for us in Odessa tonight. Katie.
Yeah, Anna, there are still protesters outside that police station tonight. They are demanding their papers back. 67 protesters have so far been released. They were arrested after the violence here on Friday, but such is the level of trust in the police in this city now, they just don't believe them. So they want their papers back too. They want firm confirmation that the cases against them are being dropped. For the first time today, we heard chants of Odessa rise up. They were marching through the city centre in their hundreds, chanting, as I say, Odessa rise up, and they're also expressing support for the separatists in the east of this country. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister, the acting Prime Minister, Yatsenyuk, was here. He told us that the world is now facing a new kind of war. The man charged with leading Ukraine out of this crisis arrived at Odessa's main hospital today. He told Sky News his country is now effectively at war with Russia.
It seems to me that the entire world is facing a new type of war. This is the new war. With the military, with no insignia on their uniforms, with an agents that have well-organized terrorist plot network, with the political and diplomatic pressure on Ukraine, with the tough and rude Russian propaganda, with the playing on Ukrainian sentiment, and not only on Ukrainians, and with the real threat to the global...
Tak, oni nikomu nie wierzą ci, bo to wszędzie propaganda.
You believe you are now effectively at war with Russia?
This is the war, and we are the wartime cabinet. This is true.
One of those seriously injured on Friday night was wheeled across the courtyard to meet him, past the Prime Ministerial motorcade. He agreed to speak to us from his hospital bed. Valentin told us he is an 18-year-old student from Odessa, that he went to take part in a peaceful protest for a united Ukraine when pro-Russian activists attacked them.
When we arrived, there were people fighting. Separatists were shooting at us from behind the police line.
In the city centre, they were holding a memorial for the 42 who died here, singing hymns and holding religious icons. These people are predominantly pro-Russian, united against the government in Kiev, convinced that their language and their way of life are under attack from
Takie głosy, te śpiewy religijne, co?
Rosjanie tam podeszli.
No, ale kto to śpiewa?
Pod prawosławnymi sztandarami.
Together with you, and they're marching to police headquarters where some of the pro-Russian protesters, people they are saying are the heroes of the city, are being held.
They killed our brothers in Odessa. They were burning them alive, and the police did nothing.
Some of the protesters pulled down the national flag. Others insisted they put it back. They said they didn't want violence here. They forced open the gates at the side entrance to the police station. From inside, riot shields were passed out. They want those inside to be released. And then the first officer emerged, half sheltered, half surrounded by the crowd. Another group emerged with shields up, attempting to retreat slowly down the street. Again, some of the protesters tried to protect them, but it is clear here who is in charge. The police were outnumbered and out of options. They left to applause from the crowd. The Prime Minister might be calling for peace and reconciliation. They're not listening to him or his government here. I think it's important to say that what is happening here is quite localized. I mean, you see this happening in the city centre outside the police headquarters today, and there were a fair number of people involved in that, but elsewhere the city is carrying on as normal. It is not that all of the city is rising up, that all of the city is taking part in this. There were also a fair proportion of the protesters who were on that march, who were trying to keep this peaceful, who were remonstrating with people who were pulling down flags, who were trying very much to police themselves, who were also trying to protect the police as they retreated. But what was so striking was to see the police this evening retreating behind their riot shields, very much outnumbered, being directed by the crowd. And yet the sense that they
No.
Ci Rosjanie przecież wiedzą dobrze, jaką wpływy ma Rosja na Ukrainę i jaką ma siłę humanitarną. I oni starali po stronie tej grupy Ukrainy, jak będą za to płacili, to jest następna lata Polacy.
No.
Na tą głupotę.
No.
backbone of the country's strategic fleet. It's an aircraft that many consider to be a Cold War legend.
Głupota stadna, ciemnota.
Want to take a closer look.
Idźcie już spać, bo byście nie spali.
But it's still daunting. After almost 15 years of silence in the skies, Russia decided to resume regular long-range patrol flights. And these exotic-looking Tu-95 strategic bombers are back on Russian and NATO radar screens once again. This turboprop had its first flight more than a half a century ago, but it is still fundamental for Russia's strategic aviation.
Tak.
The main advantage of this plane is that it is
Advantage.
simple, so it is easy to maintain.
In the late 1940s, Joseph Stalin ordered the creation of a bomber that could fly to the United States and back, and they had to be capable of delivering deadly news. Several jet versions of the aircraft were presented, but all stopped short of the necessary requirements. Realizing that the jet engines at the time weren't durable enough to perform transatlantic flights, the designers took a look to the turboprop instead, and it proved to be the right decision as Tu-95 made its first public appearance in 1955.
Now the engines that move the strategic bomber are one of a kind. It has allowed the airplane to use the coaxial system of the rotor engine, which pretty much allows it to go for very long distances.
These turboprop engines also made it the noisiest military aircraft on Earth. Its size and the roar of the propellers earned it a NATO designation, the Bear. Its blades rotate faster than the speed of sound, and Bear holds an official world speed record among propeller-powered aircraft, almost 1,000 kilometers per hour. And experts believe it still has a bright future.
It doesn't matter that the plane is old, the main thing is that the avionics and weapons systems are modern. For example, the Tu-95 can be used effectively as a cruise missile platform. It can fire missiles thousands of kilometers away from the target and return safely to base.
Along with the speed, the aircraft has a good flying range as well. Those 10,000 kilometers that Stalin was looking for were exceeded by this model. All this made the Tu-95 suitable for a wide variety of missions. Maritime reconnaissance, jamming, and intercepting radio signals are just a few examples. And in 1959, a civil version of the Bear, Tu-114, flew the Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev to New York in just 11 hours.
The fuel tanks of this aircraft are situated right in the wing. Now the capacity of it is over 100,000 liters, which would be enough for almost 30,000 kilometers.
Later on, the flight range of the Tu-95 was increased through mid-air refueling. It means missions can last up to 20 hours non-stop. And this could be quite challenging for the crew, as the tiny cockpits don't even have room for a toilet. But with Bears being upgraded through modern technology, it's likely that Russian pilots will have to sit tight in the near future. Mikhail Liebdev, Russia Today, and
This morning, the world's most powerful non-nuclear bomb has been successfully detonated by Russia. The resulting mega blast was said to be as potent as an atomic explosion, but without the radioactive fallout. Dmitry Ganiluk reports.
no information of where this test took place, no sound of the explosion. You're watching the testing of what Russia says is the world's most powerful bomb. This report, which tests show its effectiveness and capabilities are comparable to nuclear weapons. At the same time, use of this weapon doesn't damage or pollute the environment, like a nuclear weapon. The bomb explodes in mid-air, igniting a fuel-air mixture. The destruction is caused by extremely high temperatures and aftershocks, incinerating everything in sight. Afterwards, scorched earth looks more like the surface of the moon. But according to the military, there is no chemical or radioactive fallout. Russia's defense ministry says its development does not contradict any of its international arms agreements, and insists that it is not a start of a new arms race. Up until now, the United States had the most powerful fuel-air bomb in the world. Christened the mother of all bombs, it was tested in 2003 at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. The Russian military has dubbed its version the father of all bombs. Known as the vacuum bomb, it uses a fuel-air explosive more powerful than TNT and can create shockwaves equal to an atomic bomb.
Это, в свою очередь,
It allows us to reduce accuracy requirements, which makes it cheaper, but it's still a quality modern weapon. Russia says its bomb is smaller and lighter, yet 4 times more powerful than the U.S. version, and destroys a larger area. U.S. experts say the development of such a weapon could be very significant.
In both cases, these are fuel-air explosives designed to generate intense blast pressure over a large area. It's reported that the Russian bomb is a so-called thermobaric bomb that produces both blast and heat. The Russian military has been a pioneer in the development and use of these thermobaric weapons. This would have to be one of the largest deliverable, droppable bombs in military history.
According to the military, the new weapon will replace several smaller types of nuclear bombs in its arsenal, helping to maintain the country's security and to confront international terrorism in any setting and in any region.
Война и мир. День майоритета. idę. Lecą z kiecą. Lecę i podnoszę kiecę. Tak. Lecę i podnoszę kiecę. Już lecę, już lecę.